In today's video, I am taking a really lovely long walk through the woodlands, and it's incredibly wet today, so it's really muddy. I'm with my little dog Coco, and I'm going to be talking about this season of rest and stillness, quiet, going deep within the womb of the earth, and taking that time to rest and relax into the season and rejuvenate the body, the mind, the soul, the spirit, and just to take that time to figure out what it is that you are thinking and considering about planting as seeds for the upcoming spring equinox next year. And as we move through the seasons, we've just had this winter solstice, and I'm still deep into this winter solstice feeling, this wintering. And so this is what I'm going to be meditating on today. So get yourself a nice hot drink, settle back, relax, and enjoy. Everyone, thank you so much for joining me. I am on a little walk today with Coco, our little pug, at the woods. I've been to these woods with you a few times before. This past year I have been coming here a lot with Coco and just really indulging in time spent alone in this space and really leaning into that, because this is one of those... Coco! Oh, there you are. This is one of those places that I really feel I can come to rest my spirit and to really grounded and centered again. And if you sort of imagine all of that, like the electromagnetic stuff, and it just sort of feels like this buzzing, that's, as many people do, you know, I work on a computer and I work in social media, and so it's just really nice when life is busy and full. As many of you know, I've got 2 kids and work and school run usually, so coming here on the weekends or during the week, if I could get out to the woods with Coco, has just been so supportive and healing this year. So in this video, I'm going to be reflecting on my practice as part of the hashtag 12 days of Yule. But also I think I'll probably go off topic a little bit and talk about a number of things that maybe aren't related. I feel that they're related. I mean, I think it's going to be one of those videos that's just kind of rambly, if you like that kind of thing. I keep losing my dog. She stays really close to my feet. I allow myself the space and grace to show up as I need to show up, to allow my body to release attachments, release the need for control, and to sink into a sense of ease and comfort around what is uncomfortable, allowing myself to be okay with what hurts or feels sad or shameful, and giving myself that peaceful moment of solitude and rest and quietness to slip into that sense of peace and safety in the unknown, and trusting what is there to be deconstructed and what needs to be moved through me right now and released. So at the winter solstice, I went on a beautiful gathering with a group of like-minded souls for our solstice circle, and we gathered together to discuss a number of these topics related to the winter solstice and the stillness, the quietness, the darkness, and going inward to the cool, damp womb of the earth, where we can allow ourselves to heal, regenerate, and be born anew. I remember when the topic of 2024 came up, I reflected that sometimes I feel anxious about manifesting, because there's this pressure in society at large to create all of these great goals for yourself and to set these New Year's resolutions that you're kind of expected to fail at, but that you don't want to fail at. And people like me, I think, who have lofty goals, it always feels like you're trying to achieve so much in so little time. And I asked, does anyone else feel this pressure? I feel that I'm not ready to manifest the things that I'm trying to manifest, because I'm still working on these shadows and this healing that I'm deep in at the moment. And another sister turned and said to me that with manifestation or creating goals for herself, she often just likes to think of it as being birthed from within her and coming back up out of her and being birthed through her naturally, almost like a baby would be born. And the sister didn't actually add this, but this is actually true of when you're pregnant and when you are in labour. Modern day medical professionals will have you believe that you have to push the baby out, but really you don't. You just have to allow your body to open for that baby. And this was the reflection, really, that you can allow this to be birthed into the world through you. And it's very natural and organic. It's a process you don't have to put pressure on yourself to achieve. I thought this was so beautiful and exactly what I needed. It was exactly the salve I needed. And I said thank you to her for that. And she also said that the healing work, the shadow work you're doing is getting you to a place. So it is part of it. It's one of the steps that is getting you to a place where you're ready to call in those other things, and that the process has already started. You've already called them in, but you're busy deconstructing and cleansing and healing those other wounds that are still there. It took a lot of the pressure off in that moment. I thought that was really beautiful. So I was really grateful to that sister for that wisdom. And then there was some songs as well that sister brought, which was, you don't have to know the way knows the way. You don't have to see the way, feel the way, touch the way knows the way. And it went on like that, and it was beautiful. And another song that other sister brought was on Spotify, I believe, and it's called I'm Not Here to Heal, and it's about being here to live and to enjoy. And as part of that, the healing happens. And I just felt it's such a release of pressure in that, which I found incredibly beautiful. So I feel like as a person, I'm very much one of these people who will beat myself up when I don't achieve what I think I should be achieving. I struggle to give myself the grace and the space to move through whatever it is that is coming up for me. So I think I often find myself in this space at this winter time, especially this gap between Yuletide and, Imbolc, that wintry period. And I really love and relish leaning into this dark time where, you can really go inward and rest and have solitude and stillness. And for a very, very long time, for years and years and years, I've been reflecting on my practice each year. And this tends to be, for me, a natural sort of time to do that. I know many witches consider Samhain to be like the witch's new year, and I do consider it a time to be going inward and to be communing with ancestral spirits and with the dead, and to be honouring the dead and death and decay, and thinking about the cycles, the seasons, the rhythms of the world around you, as with all times of year, but you're in a different season. But I think that for me, I've been wintering for quite a long time, several years maybe, and reflecting upon the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in 2020 and where I'm at now with that, and in terms of how it has affected my life. And I really feel that since then I've been wintering, and things have felt very difficult in general, family life and personal life since that time. There's many things, I've talked about certain healing that is happening for me, moving through letting go of toxic friendships and relationships in my life, and setting up better boundaries for myself and fortifying those boundaries with certain people in my life, and what I will accept or tolerate from people if they do want to be in my life. And then those people who are familial, having those fortified boundaries and being really specific with those where it's, required. And the shadow work is just constant, I think, since that 2020 period. My daughter, as well, as many of you might know, is currently being assessed for ASD. It's been about 2.5 years that we've been going through this process. So it kind of aligns with that sort of time. And it's been a really intense time. She's now 8 years old and definitely struggles with managing emotions and understanding how to deal with certain things. And we often experience quite a lot of aggression and tantrums at home, and then a lot of that is masked at school. So there are certain upsets and things that happen at school, but not to the degree that we have them at home, and that has been a huge strain on myself and my husband for years. My spiritual practice has really been a supportive influence in my life with regards to that, especially when it came to dealing with things like the guilt and the shame that would come up around motherhood and what I felt that meant for me. And there were complex issues I was dealing with since her birth, really, because she did not have a straightforward labour and she was very sick. She had group B strep. So there was a lot of stuff to unpack and unpack again and again. Just really allow myself that space and that grace to sit with the discomfort, whatever was coming up, and allowing all of that programming to just kind of be released from me, and just understand that I'm a human being experiencing these things, and it's actually okay to feel certain emotions, and it's normal as well to feel certain emotions. I mean, obviously I don't love that word normal, but also leaning into words that don't always feel comfortable. So for me, I've always been someone, as I said, who at this time of year has sort of taken stock of my life, and I've liked to make goals and such for the upcoming years. And I think when I was younger, you know, late teens and early 20s, I would try and do the New Year's resolution thing, but I had very specific ways in which I would construct them. So I would always use the SMART way of creating goals, and I will put that in the description box below if you are curious about that. But it is making sure that your goals are specific and measurable, attainable, achievable, etc. So that's always been really, really important for me. But also, having said that, I have definitely struggled with January, as many people do, and the days feeling so much longer, even though we have had that longest night. It does feel quite bleak, as I think many people understand and feel as well. And so for me, leaning into that darkness and wintering and taking that time to be slow and still and just rest my body, rest my mind, to take things off my to-do list, but also to prepare myself and to do things that nourish myself. So I can't be completely free of jobs to do because I have a actual job, I have kids, etc. I have a home to take care of, but I can say no to obligations and to seeing people who aren't encouraging or, you know, supportive for my life. I can look to ways in which I can start to refine the things I do and my processes and my life, and sort of remove any obstacles or anything that's toxic. So that's something that I like to do, to sort of cleanse myself of anything that is remaining, lingering. And I actually find it incredibly healing to be doing things like spring cleaning at this time. I know that sort of sounds counterintuitive, but I like to clean quite a lot in my house anyway, every weekend. And so taking down seasonal decorations for Christmas and then bringing in evergreens for the first sort of half of the year or so. And as I said in some of my Yule videos, I do like to have evergreens around my house as a kind of blessing, because they do bring that blessing. And I feel that as long as I'm clearing out whatever it was that I was decorating for Christmas with, then it's okay, because the plant spirits that I'm working with, I commune with them in the woods as I forage for them and with them, and I create that sacred reciprocity. So I feel that there's that connection there, and I believe that they understand what it is that I'm wanting to invoke them for when I do. So in this time, when I'm cleansing everything else out, I'm also putting up protection charms, putting up these evergreens around my house to act as more of that protection magic, as well as like bringing in blessings, etc. And I've talked a lot about this in other folk magic vlogs and videos on my channel, so there's a lot of examples of ways in which I do this around my house. It's a really important ritual for me. I like to make sure that it feels right. I think that's the key, really. So it's feeling into what feels right and keeping some elements of that evergreen within the house, those plant spirits who can really, really support me through this time. I mean, it's definitely not my cup of tea to be creating resolutions for myself that are going to be hard for me to stick to. So I have to be really realistic. As I said, I don't really refer to them as resolutions. As I said, they're goals. And I try to be more and more realistic every single year and celebrate the things that, you know, have gone really well for me, or the ways in which I've grown, the lessons I've learned. And I put a spread onto my Instagram, a journaling spread or a spread that you can use for divination for this time where we're wintering, we're going inward. I offered that up before the Gregorian calendar New Year. However, you can still use it through January and even during Imbolc as well. I mean, I do have another tarot spread for Imbolc as well, but these journaling prompts are just really, really great to reflect upon the year that you've had and what you're looking towards. So I will leave that in the description box as well, and you can find the image on Instagram as well if you wish to. So this year in my practice, I guess I've been feeling last couple of years, I feel chaotic as a person because I hold on to things have sentimental value, and this last year I wanted it to be easier because I felt I was going through some challenges and I was feeling really sad, and I needed to really strip things back. And so I had a word for myself that was ease, and I just wanted to lean into ease for 2023. And I really feel that I put so much pressure on myself to create YouTube videos, creating forecasts for the new and full moon. And as much as I loved that, because it was deepening my understanding and practice with astrology as well, it was taking such a long time and taking such a lot of my energy and bandwidth. And then in addition to having a home and a family and a spiritual practice that was separate, as well as my job, it was just taking its toll. And I kept it up for way longer than I should have, and it got to the point where it wasn't even useful for anyone anymore, I don't think, because it was so big what I was creating every month. It came to be somewhere like a 45-page booklet every month, twice a month, for each lunation, and it was just too much. And even I couldn't utilize all of the shadow work that I was creating. Wanted to, you know, but sometimes less is more, I think. And so I really felt that I'd been successful, and I don't want to sort of say that I was unsuccessful until then, but I really felt myself leaning into that word ease towards the end of the year, when I was like, this needs to end now. I need to bring this to an end, and it needs to be the time when I actually just focus on my healing. Because of the space, the holding space that I'm doing for family members and loved ones, I need that space for myself too. And I wanted my spiritual practice to become much more of a sanctuary for me again, rather than I feel like a need to be creating to support others. And I mean, it started with me creating things that were healing myself and then offering those out in the hopes that they would support others. And I think they really did that from the messages that I received from people. But it got to a point where it became bigger than what it was. For me, I'm really thankful that now I think I've literally taken heed finally, and ease. I think I eased into ease in 2023, and I think it's becoming more comfortable, let's say, if it's not natural for me to be an easygoing kind of person, being a sort of type A, perfectionist, hardworking kind of person. My Mars is in Capricorn. I'm a Leo sun. I'm a very go-get-it kind of person, creative, very energetic, and also Scorpio rising, so energetic in that perspective as well, and a Cancer moon. So there's a lot of introspection and a lot of emotions happening a lot, and a lot of psychic hits. And I think that there's something, you know, it's almost, I'm quite happy about this. There's something about creating for things like YouTube and Instagram that does not communicate so easily or so well, and I'm almost grateful for that. And that is the inner work, not just the shadow work and the inner work, strengthening your witch body, as it were, but the work that you do on the astral, or within dreams, within lucid dreams, in the astral space, witch flight, astral projection, as I said, psychic work, and those kind of aspects of practice that I feel is so deeply personal, as well as spirit work, you know, and connecting to spirits. I can talk about herbs, and, you know, I think the last time I was in the woods filming for the channel, I was talking about connecting to herbs, and I talked about a few different herbs. There's so much personal gnosis with every single person's practice that could never be communicated on a YouTube video, and I love that, actually, because it makes something mine again. Do you know what I mean? It actually makes it so much more personal, and it brings it back to what is yours and the actual sacredness of what a practice is, rather than just a how to do this kind of video. This is an absolute private personal gnosis thing that you can't get from anybody else. And I think as well, there's been a movement that I've seen within the community, which is so beautiful, whereby other creators are making more content around their personal gnosis. And that's beautiful, because I do love to hear and watch and see and read about other people's personal gnosis. And there's so much value and gold there, because you understand more about how other people connect to, understand, receive wisdom, and just the experiences as well. And you can have shared gnosis then as well. One of these areas in which that has happened for me has been with Lilith, because for the past couple of years I've been working with Lilith independently. My boss Elena was also doing the same, and Elena wanted to create a coven. There's a greater coven split into two that I've been part of since the end of summer. And that has been very intense, but also incredibly beautiful and rich, especially in the sense of being with other like-minded souls, women, and healing parts of yourselves together, holding space for one another, sharing things to help support each other with healing and to help each other understand things. And that's been incredibly healing and powerful, because you're sharing so much of yourself, and you're also then sharing that space with others. It's been a very intense but beautiful process, which I've absolutely loved. And that has been so wonderful, because more and more and more and more downloads from Lilith would come through. There'd be more and more wisdom, more and more gnosis. And as I would talk to my sisters, we would have shared gnosis as well, and that was incredibly profound and beautiful and just helped to strengthen the work, really. And at the moment, like as I said, I'm taking a sacred pause to allow myself to have this time to rest into this space and allow myself to feel whatever needs to be felt and come up, and allow myself to process as well, because during term time and during the rest of the year, even like the summer, I don't really feel like I get a break. This time is when things feel like they're sort of shut down and I can actually take a rest. And it's been really lovely to be able to do that and listening to the stillness, being in these woods. And like I said, one thing that I've really deepened into this year is being in this space and connecting with the spirits in this space with my doggy, listening to the trees, the wind, the song of the wind, connecting to the spirits that reside here, the different tree spirits specifically. There's another part of the woodlands which is so beautiful for connecting to certain spirits, and I went there just before the winter solstice, and the stillness was just so beautiful. There are a number of walks around this woodland, and I'm literally like traversing some crazy you're gonna need a bath. I'm traversing some very deep pools of muddy water right now, so I'll take my time. Oh, that's really pretty. I could take that home. So I feel like a lot of the work I've been doing this year has been shadow work with Lilith, but also alongside Lilith, I guess you could say. And I have felt the Morrigan coming in occasionally, but only as a sort of supportive influence. I've done a few workings with the Morrigan this year, but not nearly so many as in the past. And it's definitely been a supportive influence, and I've given thanks and gratitude for that support. But the work with Lilith is kind of ongoing and just very intense, and it feels a lot like there's always different assignments. And I don't feel so much like there's pressure to get everything done, because I know I only have so much bandwidth and space in my head, and I read in the evenings and it takes me a certain amount of time to process as well whatever I've read, and I like things to assimilate. So, you know, as much as I want to be able to read everything and process it really quickly and just learn and learn and learn, because I've always felt that way, I love learning and growing, I need to give myself that time to allow it to marinate and allow the work to actually work within me. So that's been really beautiful. But just going back again to this stillness, that the quality of the time and space, the darkness, the stillness, and leaning into that and allowing myself. And so with ease being my word of the year last year, I was reflecting sort of just before winter solstice, what do I feel into for next year, for 2024? And the first thing that was coming up for me was peace. And that's actually what my daughter then said would be her word. She just randomly said that that would be her word. And I said, oh, that was the first thing I thought. And I guess it is because of the state of the world at this point in time and the horrific atrocities that are happening, the terror, the pain. I've expressed it already, but maybe I've not been clear enough. Hatred for any group, nationality, persons, people is not something that I support or condone in any way. And so I feel this division very much just a lot at the moment in the world, and it's been very, very sad and very dark. And I think it feels that it would be very natural for somebody to feel sad at this time because of that. And I guess coming to terms with the fact that, you know, I'm safe and warm and happy, and, you know, I'm not in this situation that there are so many people in at this time. It's difficult to move into a space where you're celebrating, and there's a lot of feelings, but then also you end up in this spiral where you sort of then feel shameful for feeling those feelings. But I felt that the answer to it was literally only love, like love, love, love. And that's literally what other people have been speaking about as well, who I know, and leaning into that love and sending that love out as much as possible. And if I felt division, if I felt fear or pain, or if I felt hurt by people, I would literally just work on that feeling of having compassion for those people wherever they are, especially, you know, if I felt some kind of resentment towards them, just then supporting to heal that by sending out love regardless, you know, and actually trying to work on that forgiveness factor as well, which is really challenging when people have hurt you. And I think that, yeah, sending out that love, it does things for the collective. It does. And there's other things obviously to do, like donate, raise awareness, learn, listen, join groups and understand where it is that you can go to protest safely if you are going to, etc. There are a number of things and a number of creators to follow to understand more. And so that's what I've been doing, and that's what I would encourage others to do as well who are feeling that way. Peace was the first word. Then I was just thinking about breath. because ease just wasn't easy enough. There was still resistance to the word ease, and I just wanted to feel like I had enough air in my lungs and that I wasn't rushing and that I was enjoying, or that I am, I suppose. Next year I want to feel that I am enjoying moments and not rushing from place to place, not that it's like a race and that I'm trying to get as much done as possible. I want to ease again into breath and stillness and slowness. And then I think it was on Boxing Day, I was quoting something as we went for a walk with the family and the dogs, and I can't remember what it was I was quoting, but it's a funny film and I'm gonna have to find out what it is. But I think it has Steve Martin in it, and he shouts out "release," and it's like something about dogs running off, and I don't know, I can't remember what but the word release, and it was making me laugh. And then I realised, like, release, because I kept seeing it then after I was making that joke, I kept seeing the word release, and I'm sure I've had release like so many times as my word of the year in the past, but I just thought that is right, because it's about releasing that need for control, ultimately releasing the need for control, releasing the need for other people to validate me, releasing the need to be on the go, releasing the need to have everything done correctly and perfectly and right, and have everything, all my ducks in a row, you know, have all of the research done, all of the papers written, all of the words together, all of the work done, all of everything done perfectly, all of the things I'm trying to achieve whilst not slipping over in mud. I need to concentrate more where I'm walking. You know, releasing all of those things. And I was like, well, it is that again. Just got to work more on that release, and breath is part of that. So yeah, that's, I think, where I'm going. And of course, practice-wise, if you've watched my channel, you'll know my practice generally involves a number of different key aspects and elements, and that I would probably call myself eclectic in the way that I practice, refer to myself, I guess, as polytheist, pagan, animist, folk witch, because my practice is based where I am, on the land I'm in England, in Devon, and also related to my ancestry. So then working with spirits as well in that sort of traditional witchcraft sense, but based, you know, in what I learned around neo-paganism and Wicca when I was in my teens. So that's obviously where I came from, and my practice then also involves things like connecting and working with different herbs. Yikes. Divination involving tarot specifically, as well as charms and bones occasionally, scrying, dream divination, so working in lucid dreams and then dream interpretation. And then I've been leaning into some more Jungian practices as well this year in terms of working with the active imagination and some of the archetypes that I've been working with for a number of years coming forward, and in order to work with certain shadows, etc. So yeah, and the active imagination has been so supportive, and Lilith has actually factored into that as well, connecting to my house spirits as well, the spirits of place that my house resides on, as well as the spirits within my home, ancestral and otherwise, taking care of the hearth and the home and the kids and all of that, which a lot of the herbal healing and remedy work comes into. So hearth witchery, green witchery practices in the garden, and kitchen witchery, of course, which some of you will have seen. And then working with things on my land, things that I forage for, working with what I've got to create magic in whatever way. Sometimes in sort of ways that you would imagine a witch to work. So in jars, in bottles, potions and tinctures, oils, candles, incenses, you know, spirit work, etc. with tools such as the stang, as well as in other ways that are more, I guess, wild, sticks and things, and creating charms and all sorts of things like that that I don't share all that frequently, but that go on and create the practice that I have. So I don't see my practice changing all that much other than evolving through what I'm reading, because I've been studying more grimoire texts for the last few years as well, because I always like to be reading and learning things even if I'm not practicing them. Learning about different traditions and paradigms has been so important and will continue to be, no doubt. Another aspect of my practice is obviously the journaling that goes along with the shadow work and the inner work that I do, and any tarot studies, etc., any recording of workings. The journaling has become such a potent method of healing, and actually has always been since I've been a teenager. And I would say that being a teenager, a young person, having books to write in and create art in has always been a healing method for me. And something that I do want to lean more into is creating more art, because I studied art. My mum was an art teacher and now is an artist, and her dad was an artist. And so art is in my blood, it's in my family. I almost went to art school, got into a couple of art schools, but I didn't go. And so it was something I didn't want to make it into a career because I didn't want to ruin it. But then because I didn't go into it, I had all this inertia around actually then creating art. And so as an adult as well, it's been difficult to do because it's sitting down, giving time, but also wanting it to be perfect and not having enough time to make it perfect, and that kind of perfectionism bug. And I remember at university, I always had this guilt around reading literature because all I wanted to read was good literature, but I was just reading all these textbooks for my dissertation. I recognise how I do this kind of thing to myself in many areas of my life. So allowing myself to have that freedom and that space to be able to read texts for fun as well as for learning. And sometimes they can be both. And sometimes they are really something you want to learn about, and it's fun to have learned about it, but they can be quite dry texts, especially if you're reading around the occult area. But then other things can be a lot more fun to read and a lot more expressive and exciting and creative. And it's certain people as well that are really inspiring to just listen to, talk about these artistic pursuits and creative passions of theirs, and so inspiring to sit down and actually just devote an afternoon to something. It's very easy to say, oh, I've got this to do, I've got this to do, I've got this course to study, I've got this work to do, the kids need to do this, the kids need to do that, dog needs a walk. There's just always 1,000 things to do when you're an adult, but you just have to make the time. And it's the same with the fitness and that journey. I've always enjoyed working out, and that's always been a big thing for me, and I feel like the Morrigan is always with me when I'm working out, especially lifting weights. I remember at university I did some kickboxing for a while, and I always felt the presence of strong warrior goddesses with me during that time, and powerful. Another element of my practice, the creation of sigils and working with sigils in different ways, and whether that be with sex magic or otherwise, incorporating sigil magic into other aspects of magic, such as planetary work or just candle spells or ongoing rituals and workings with Lilith, and protection workings, of course, anything when you're trying to manifest. So that's something that I've been deepening into as well the last few years. It's something that's always been in my practice, but it just gets deeper and deeper, I think, the more you learn and the more you hear about how other people utilize them in their practice. So really, I feel for me, as I said, release in all of the senses of the word that I explained, and continuing with certain projects such as finishing my astrology course finally, continuing to be part of the coven of Lilith, as well as to continue my own work with Lilith, and to deepen into spirit work with my ancestors, and usually they are my dearly departed loved ones, but as I said, to deepen into more ancestral lines, to go back further, more with plant spirits as well, and tree spirits, as you know I love doing. You know what, I think I'd love to spend more time at the seaside as well. The sea and the woods are like my favourite places to be, like by the ocean and in the woods. To spend more time in those places would be great. So I did also do a tarot spread for the year ahead at the start of 2023 or the end of 2022, but I've not yet looked at it, so it's on my plan to look at it today. So I have, of course, since looked at the spread that I did for last year, and I was actually quite surprised with how many of the months seemed to align with what was happening in my life and the energies. And it was sort of more of an overall energy, and I guess that's what you are looking at when you have just that one card for each month. And since then, I've also uploaded onto Instagram an image of this year's reading for the year, and I explained how I do that and what I'm looking for. For this year, I used the Ritual Tarot by Tierra May, which was a beautiful addition to my collection last year. I absolutely love it, as well as the Louboutin Oracle as well, which is a new one from Llewellyn. So you can go over onto Instagram and see that spread if you wish to. And I will be doing one for 2024 and working out what is there to be dissected. I have been working recently on what is coming up for me in terms of resistance. I think as well, like, I feel like I don't have a lot of goals, but I actually obviously do. Continued practice as it is, deepening into my spirit practice, as I said, work with Lilith, continuing my herbal studies, continuing my astrology studies. There's a lot, so no doubt I will go off on certain tangents because I tend to do that. So I will have to see where that takes me. No doubt certain things will come up and I will explore. So I think I've talked enough for now. I really hope that you are well and feeling safe and warm and happy, and that you are able to get as much nourishment and comfort out of this season as possible, and also rest. Rest is something that I definitely need to focus on. So that is the thing, rest. I also hope you've enjoyed hearing about my adventures this year and the things I've been working on healing and how that's been for me. If you did make it to the end, please leave me a little candle emoji. I'd love to see. And thank you again so much for watching. If you'd like to support me, I have an Instagram page. There is a TikTok, although I haven't uploaded in a while. Patreon, and on Patreon I am going to be offering some new things, but not in the next month or so. Things are going to be slow to start. So at the moment it's really just support level if you wish to, but there's content from the last couple of years there in terms of tarot spreads and recipes and other musings and such. So potentially there'll be some video content coming soon on Patreon. But at the moment, as I said, I paused doing my new and full moon forecast. So potentially there'll be some shadow work things coming up as well soon. I really want to do a 101 shadow work series, continue exploring topics around the divine feminine and Lilith, sisterhood wounds, witch wounds, etc. on the channel, talking more about 101 topics, open to suggestions. So if you have some things you'd like me to talk about, then please do let me know. I'd be happy to share. I am currently stuck in a bush. I'm stuck. Let's get out of this. How? Okay, step over. So yes, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you stay well and safe and have a beautiful start to 2024. Mwah. Many blessings. Bye.